Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
So, Ms. Vander Ark, I just want to go back and ask you a little bit about your background, okay? So, were you a legal clerk, or what was your exact role at Newaygo County Circuit Court?
I was a law clerk.
Okay. And you were previously an intern in Muskegon County Circuit Court, correct?
I was, yes.
What were some of your job duties in those two positions?
Oh, sorry. Well, both of them. I did legal research. I helped score sentencing to make sure it was accurate. That was about the extent of it here because I was still in law school. When I worked for my judge in Newaygo, I actually did the research, and I would draft opinions, and then he would, decide if that was okay, and then most of the time he just signed off on that I'd gotten it correct.
Is it fair to say that you worked on post-conviction motions for your judges?
Yes, I did several times.
Including claims of ineffective assistance of counsel?
I would assume so. I don't remember.
And so in other defendants' cases, you would be writing draft opinions or bench memos for circuit court judges?
That's what I wrote. I don't think we had an ineffective assistance. I don't think so. I may be wrong, but I don't think so.
And it's your testimony that your opinions or your recommendation to the judge was so good he just wrote off on it, signed off?
On most of the time. There was a few that he adjusted, but he would read them and then send them over to his clerk to publish. So.
And this all happened before you were criminally charged, correct?
Yes.
So even before you were at a trial, you are intimately familiar with post-conviction motions, correct?
I wouldn't say intimately familiar. Some of them I was familiar with, but
familiar enough for your judge to just rubber stamp what you said?
A lot of what we did, actually most of what we did was civil. There was some criminal, but most of the motions and the work I did as far as writing was civil. He did both civil and criminal.
Now, Ms. Vander Ark, you mentioned that Mr. Johnson had a team of individuals at the Public Defender's Office, correct?
Yes.
And could you tell the judge how many individuals were on that team?
I have no idea. I think total I met with, over time, probably 6. And then he mentioned having somebody doing research and other people and other interns working on it, but that's the people I met with. I don't know how many there were.
Okay. It wasn't just you and Mr. Johnson working on the case, though?
No, it wasn't.
He had social workers that assisted you?
Yes.
And it sounds like interns as well?
Yes.
And other attorneys in his office?
Yes, I only met, as far as the criminal side, I only met with another attorney in his office. It was at one hearing, it was the gentleman that sat second chair, and then at trial. I didn't meet with any of the other attorneys otherwise.
And you said that Mr. Johnson began meeting with you approximately 2 days after your arrest?
Yes.
And he continued to meet with you throughout the pendency of the case?
Yes.
And his team would meet with you throughout the pendency of the case?
The social worker is the one I saw the most. I'm trying to think. I saw the intern some, but that was mostly it.
And when you say the social worker, do you recall, was that Melinda Katecki?
For the last 2 visits, I only saw her twice in person, and I think she was online once for a meeting with a doctor. But there was another social worker that met with me once a week, usually for the first few months. Probably 6 months at least, and then she moved on from the office.
Now, Ms. Vander Ark, you've spoken quite a bit this morning about your medical, episode, for lack of a better term, medical episode that happened mid-trial. Okay, so I'm going to go into that. But that's not the first episode you had during these proceedings, correct?
No.
Okay. And one of those happened at your preliminary hearing, or your preliminary examination, correct?
Yes.
And that occurred just before Paul was going to testify at the prelim, correct?
I believe so.
And your medical episode that happened in the trial happened right when you'd been confronted during cross-examination, correct?
I had one other one before during trial.
Okay, when was that?
There were some police officers testifying.
And
I was sitting there and had a panic attack, and they cleared the jury out.
And do you recall what the officer was testifying about when you had that
I don't.
episode?
No, I don't.
Probably something pretty significant about your case, though, correct?
I mean, I would assume so.
Or something about your son's condition?
I don't know.
It's fair to say that those episodes, though, don't happen all the time.
They do, well, they were beforehand, and they still do happen consistently.
That's a poorly worded question, so I'll clarify here. Those episodes didn't happen on direct examination with your own attorney questioning you, correct?
They didn't happen yet?
They didn't happen during opening statements?
No.
Or jury selection? No?
No.
They didn't happen during certain parts of your preliminary examination?
No.
But these episodes happen when you're confronted with evidence that you don't want to acknowledge or admit. Is that fair?
No, they happen when I was confronted with traumatic events. It was anything traumatic that got that bad.
So seeing your son, who was in your care for all those months, in a picture, was traumatic to you?
Yes, extremely.
But you'd seen him every day that he was in your care, correct?
Yes. What I remembered, yes.
And then when you see a picture of him on that stand is when you have this episode.
Yes, I mean, I had panic attacks. Looking back, I know I had panic attacks previously, but I don't know what brought those on.
Nobody diagnosed you with a panic attack on the night of that trial, correct?
I don't know.
That's a yes or no?
I said I don't know.
Okay. You have no evidence that you had medical diagnosis of a panic attack that day?
That day? No. As far as I know, no.
And you have no medical diagnosis that you had a panic attack during your preliminary examination, correct?
There was no medical person called in.
Okay, so my question was, you don't have medical documentation of a panic attack that day?
No.
So let's talk about some medical documentation you do have. You recall Mr. Johnson submitted you to multiple individuals for forensic examination.
Yes.
And you met with those medical providers?
Yes.
And how many would you say, based on your memory, you met with?
A couple.
Okay. Would it surprise you that there's approximately 4 reports regarding your criminal responsibility or competency?
No. It wouldn't
surprise
me.
you?
No, because I understand the process, so it doesn't surprise me.
Okay. What's your understanding of the process?
That both sides can get the competency evaluation and the responsibility evaluation.
And you understand that under Michigan law, you're presumed competent unless proven otherwise, or unless shown otherwise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You've never been shown to be incompetent, correct?
Not medically, no.
No, not legally. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You have never had a legal determination that you are incompetent, correct?
Yeah.
And that's after meeting with these 4 providers, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, some of the providers called into question your rendition of facts to present to them. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that, but I'll trust if they said that.
Do you recall specifically, let me go back here before we get into that. Do you remember your interviews with these providers?
Bits and pieces.
Do you feel that you were truthful with them?
Yes.
Do you feel that you appropriately explained your situation and your memory with them?
I hope so.
But you don't know, correct?
No, I don't.
Sorry, bear with me one moment, please. Your Honor, I'm referencing People's Exhibit 2, which I believe was attached to my brief, which would be a June 20th, 2023 report authored by a Benjamin La Liberty. welcome, doctor. Now did you tell this doctor or this individual at the Department of Health and Human Services Center for Forensic Psychiatry that you disassociated during times that Timothy was in your care?
Yes, even times when he wasn't. I mean, it happened regularly, it still does.
Well, and that's my question. So, is your claim in this post-conviction motion that you were disassociating during parts of the trial?
I mean, I'm not a medical person, so I don't know, but that's the only answer I have.
Well, so I'm not asking you to give me a medical opinion. I'm asking you to tell me what you mean when you're saying you disassociate. So what do you mean when you say you disassociate?
Usually it's a panic attack, and I have no clue what's going on around me. I don't remember anything during that.
And so you've said that on that day of trial, when you had your episode, that you had a panic attack. But would that be a disassociation like you have just described?
During the panic attack, yes. They usually only last like 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Boquist?
Yes.
I just want to interject. Ms. Vander Ark, can you describe to the court what you believe what you are experiencing, not the people. So what you call panic attack, what are you experiencing during this events that you label as a panic attack?
It's one of two things on the breathing. Either I hyperventilate, or I feel like I've got an elephant sitting in my chest and crushing it and I can't breathe.
So that's trouble breathing?
Yes. I'm shaking. My head is totally spinning.
So dizziness?
Yes, sir. I don't have a clue what's going on around me. I know people have tried to touch me during a panic attack, and that just freaks me out worse.
You mean painful?
No, just trying to make sure I'm okay.
So
And
when somebody touches you, what do you experience when someone touches you?
I pull away, and the panic gets worse.
Okay, so you're aware of somebody touching you?
When they actually put their hands on me, yes.
Okay. When you say you don't know what's going on around you, is it you have auditory problems or you can't hear, or you just have an inability to understand what's being said?
I think it's both. I mean, I don't remember anything that's been said to me during a panic attack. I know I had a couple people scare me at Huron Valley. They were just playing around, but it caused a panic attack because I didn't know they were there. And I guess they tried to talk to me, and they said, yeah, we got no response, and I don't remember them trying to talk to me at all.
Okay.
It's like
Do you
I'm down
have any
a...
other symptoms?
It's like I go into a total darkness, like this black hole.
No. When you say darkness, are you seeing black? What are you seeing? Is it
Like a
spots
black or gray, usually. I'll try to fix on a spot as it sets in, but then that's it. I don't see anything else.
Can you move? Are you able to move your arms, legs, extremities?
Not most of the time, no. I'll curl up into a ball and...
So let me ask you a question. You curl up in a ball, you consciously make the decision to curl into a ball to stop the symptoms? Or is it an involuntary movement into a ball?
It's an involuntary movement.
So involuntary movement into a ball. And then you don't know how much time passes?
No,
Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
no. I know that afterwards, I've had somebody there and look at the clock, and the only thing I could tell you has been, I've had people say anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes that were around.
And you said these have happened while incarcerated currently?
Yes.
Okay.
They still happen
In
regularly.
your cell, in the common areas, where they happen?
Most of the time it's in my room
In your cell?
or in the restroom, yeah.
Room or restroom? Okay. Any times when other inmates were around?
Yes,
Okay. So common areas?
yes,
Okay. And you're aware that these areas are filled, correct?
yes,
Now, this would be on camera.
yep,
Okay. So you're telling me that you experienced a panic attack where you curled in a ball on camera at the prison?
yes. In the foyer of one of my units, somebody came up behind me and scared me, and
Do you know approximately when that was?
I have well, I can give you a date range because there's a certain time I was in that unit.
Please
It
do
would
so.
be somewhere between end of August of 23 No, 24. 24. And beginning of January of 2025. That was the time I was in that.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure we understand each other about panics.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Let me clarify, you said August of 2024 through January of 2025?
Yes, I was in, I can give you the name of the unit if
Yes,
you
that
want.
would be helpful.
Gladwin A.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So, Ms. Vander Ark, now it seems like we're all on the same page about what you mean when you say panic or disassociate.
Yes,
Okay. And it's fair to say it's your testimony that you had that sort of episode mid-trial during your cross-examination. Is that your
Yes.
testimony?
yes,
Now, are you aware, though, in People's Exhibit 2, that criminal responsibility report that I previously placed in the record, that it was noted by the clinician that your claims of disassociating, quote, only occurred when Timothy was bad? Are you aware of that in the report?
no, I'm not, because that's not true.
Okay. And overall, the opinion of the clinician was that when you described your current state, you did not describe any substantial functional impairments within the context of your current confinement.
If I said that, that's not true.
Well, that was his opinion.
That was his opinion? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he said that, but that's,
And here, let's go further. On page 10, Your Honor, if I may approach? I'm showing the witness People's Exhibit 2, page 10. All right, Ms. Vander Ark, if you would look at that, and would you read right where that star starts? Please read that into the record.
Ms. Vander Ark was asked to recount her thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around the time of the alleged offense. However, Ms. Vander Ark claimed to have no memory of the events that led to Timothy's death, noting she frequently dissociated due to the stress of interacting with him.
And you can keep reading. Please read the whole paragraph.
Of note, this immediately appeared to be a self-protective response style as opposed to the result of a genuine memory deficit or bona fide dissociative condition. That is, her purported memory loss was noticeably selective and only involved the actions that allegedly caused the victim's passing. Thus, Ms. Vander Ark cannot be considered a credible historian. That's not true, but...
So, Ms. Vander Ark, we don't have an opinion from an expert that you were incompetent, correct?
Yes,
But we do have an opinion from an expert that you're not a credible historian, correct?
looks like it.
And that's specifically as it relates to your credibility about these disassociations you claim to have, correct?
That I have, yes.
That you claim to have, correct? Have you been diagnosed medically in any of these reports with a dissociative condition?
Not in those reports, no.
Now, you, one of your claims in this post-conviction motion is that you take issue with Mr. Johnson not calling an expert, correct?
If that's what's in there, then we discussed it briefly. I didn't know what he was doing, so as far as if he was going to call him or not.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. You weren't sure if Mr. Johnson was going to call the expert, or if we weren't going to have the expert here at this hearing?
For a while, I wasn't sure if he was going to call him at the trial.
Okay.
Sorry.
But you do recall meeting with Dr. King,
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
Yes. How did you feel that meeting went with Dr. King?
Long.
Was it thorough?
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, I don't remember the whole thing, but I know it was exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. King also has some opinions as it relates to your credibility as a historian, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. So I'm looking here at Defendant's Exhibit B, page 10. And Ms. Vander Ark, I'm going to just start here where it says conclusion. Ms. Vander Ark overreported general psychological dysfunction and generated a larger than average number of infrequent responses. Are you aware that that was determined based on your psychological testing?
I mean, I think I've read it before.
Okay. You have no reason to dispute
No,
what
I'm
he
not
has in this
disputing. That's what
report.
I'm not disputing.
Okay. In fact, you actually attached this report to your motion for a new trial, correct?
Yep, my attorney did, yes.
On your behalf, though,
Yes,
correct?
yeah.
Yes. And so we have one clinician saying that you're not a credible historian and another saying that you overreport general psychological dysfunction, correct?
That's what they say.
Ms. Vander Ark, there is no medical opinion now that determined you were not competent to proceed with trial, correct?
Correct.
You have no medical evidence today that you've presented at this hearing, correct?
Correct. But nobody bothered to get any.
Your Honor, I'd move to strike that non-responsive answer from the record.
I will.
Thank you.
Is non-responsive.
So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. In your direct examination, you've provided multiple other individuals that you want to place blame on for what happened in your criminal case. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I'm not going to dispute it, yes. I don't remember all that testimony.
Well, just today. Today
Okay.
you said that it was your ex-husband's fault that Timothy came into your care, correct?
Well, he asked me, yes. That's what he told me, and that's why I took him.
And it's your testimony that it's the jail's fault for your housing situation that exacerbated your mental health, correct?
I didn't have any choice in the matter, so yes.
So that's a yes or no. Are you blaming the jail for your mental health?
For making it worse, yes.
So we have, you're blaming the jail, you're blaming your ex-husband. Now, you've also blamed Timothy today, didn't you?
As far as what?
As far as his behavior is causing you to act the way you acted.
As far as causing chaos, yes. I mean, as far as causing stress, yes.
And now you blamed work as well, saying that caused stress. Your employment before your arrest.
I mean, work always causes stress.
This has been a consistent theme for you, where you want to blame others for things you've done, correct?
I explained the situation.
Well, so you're saying it's your ex-husband's fault, it's the jail's fault, it's Timothy's fault, it's now your trial attorney's fault that we're here. So is it fair to say it's a theme of yours to point the finger at others for what's going on in your case?
I wouldn't say it's a theme, no. That's an opinion. You can see
All right.
the things that I had no say in, that you can't blame me for.
Now let's talk about those jail, the testimony you had about your being held in, you said it was max security during the
Yes.
pre-trial phase?
Yes.
Correct? You said you were locked in there and isolated?
In a room by myself, yes.
Okay, yes. Was Timothy also locked in a room and isolated when you locked him in the closet?
He wasn't locked in, but he was in the room, yes.
Okay. When you had alarms on his door to keep him in that closet, was he isolated?
Yes.
And he'd be locked in there for hours at a time, correct?
I would assume so, yes. I don't,
Yes or no? Was he locked in there for hours at a time?
yes.
And you want the court to use your isolation as a basis for making a determination about your mental health, correct?
It has an effect on it, yes, it does.
What about Timothy's mental health? What impact did your locking him away, isolated, have on his mental health?
I have no idea how to answer that.
Truthfully, that's what you're here to do.
That is truthfully. I have no idea how to answer that.
Now, you talked about some of his diagnoses, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, it wouldn't be beneficial to him to be isolated like that, correct?
Yes. I mean, he isolated himself too. He did not. I offered to, there were kids in the neighborhood, and I actually specifically asked them. He wasn't the most coordinated kid in the world, but they were playing basketball one day, and I said, hey, can he come over? They said, anytime. He never wanted to do that. When we went to Little Man's baseball games, he stuck to himself or with us. He didn't want to go talk to the older kids.
So it's your testimony that Timothy isolated himself?
Some of the time. Not all the time, but some of the time.
Timothy, who you went to such lengths to keep away from your in-laws that you were tracking their location so that your child G would be outside when his grandparents arrived, is the one that isolated himself.
I did not. That was not the point of finding out where Mom was. It was because the house was a mess. It wasn't. It had nothing to do with Timothy. That thought it hadn't even entered my mind until I got asked about it at trial.
You expect the judge to believe that Timothy did this to himself, correct?
Can you define this?
Well, that's what your testimony is
I'm
that
saying-
he isolated himself.
I said some of the time, and you said this. That's
Okay, I'll clarify. He isolated himself in that closet
some of the time. Some of the times downstairs,
where he had nothing but a tarp in there. He isolated himself in there. Is that your testimony?
he tore apart a mattress. But
That was not an answer.
some
My
of the
question.
time, I said some of the time.
Did he isolate himself in those ice baths?
I wasn't there for that.
But you ordered it, correct?
I don't remember.
You had a cell phone at the time this happened, right?
Yes.
And you were messaging with your other son, Paul, correct?
Yes.
And those messages speak for themselves, right?
I'm not disputing the messages. I'm just telling you what I do and don't remember.
Now, you testified earlier today that during the time after your husband's stroke, you were, quote, barely surviving. Do you remember testifying to that?
Yes.
You were surviving just fine. It was Timothy that was barely surviving, correct?
I wasn't aware of enough of what was going on around me. I wasn't, I admit that.
Now, another claim in your post-conviction motion is how your attorney, Mr. Johnson, handled the surveillance video from that closet, correct?
The motion about it, yes. Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about, yes, from the
Okay.
brief.
And so you are claiming that it was ineffective or deficient of Mr. Johnson to let the police officer testify to the contents of that video, correct?
I mean, if that's what's, I trust my attorney with that, so.
Did you observe that video?
No.
You were in that video, though, to your knowledge, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
And that video has been described by multiple individuals as extremely graphic and haunting. Are you aware of that?
I think I've heard that, yes.
And that video actually, in fact, shows your son take his final breath. Are you aware of that?
I did not know that, no.
And it shows what you were doing in the time leading up to him taking that final breath. Are you aware of that?
I would assume so.
Are you aware that it shows you being extremely cruel to him in those moments?
I don't know.
You're also aware that after he's passed away, it depicts you dragging him out of that closet. Are you aware of that?
I remember performing CPR, so I guess was what happened before that.
Oh, I can have 1 second. Are you aware that at the end of that video, after you pull him out, there's audio about telling him to stop faking it?
I have no idea what was in it.
Are you also aware that before he passes away, you call him a dummy?
There was something said about that at trial. We all say stupid things.
So it's your testimony that that was just a stupid thing to say to your dying son?
A
To
stupid,
insult him?
it's a stupid thing to say to your child, period. That's what
Yet
I'm
you
saying.
said it, correct?
Yes, I mean, I'm not disputing it.
Do you believe that your attorney should have let the jury view that video in its entirety?
No.
Okay. So you think it's probably a good trial strategy to shield the jurors from seeing you on video insult your dying son, correct?
Yes.
It's probably a good trial strategy to not have the jurors personally witness his last breaths, correct?
Yes.
And it's probably a good trial strategy to not have the jurors observe you telling him he's faking it when he's already dead, correct?
Yes.
Now, it's your testimony that during the trial there was some discussion about the manslaughter instruction, correct?
What do you mean? I'm sorry, can you rephrase that?
So you testified on direct that when Mr. Johnson came to the jail, he was discussing jury instructions.
Oh, you mean this hearing? Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm
I
sorry,
was
not this
confused.
hearing, I apologize, the trial. During the trial, there was a discussion that Mr. Johnson had with you about the manslaughter instruction.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask a couple of questions that sort of dovetail off of the court's questions here, though. And I'm sorry to go backwards, but you said when you're having these dissociative episodes, you have involuntary movements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, it's being recorded. So
Yes, I'm sorry.
And let me ask you this. Was it an involuntary movement for you to grab the garbage can while you were testifying? Or was that intentional?
I don't know what you mean. I mean, I was going to throw up.
Okay,
It was
so
right
did
there.
you make the choice to extend your arms and grab it?
Yeah.
And did you make the choice to lean your body over?
I don't know. I don't know on that. I mean, I was about to throw up, so.
Did it happen by accident that you were positioned that way?
I mean, no.
Okay. Are you aware there was no vomit in that garbage can once you left the courtroom?
I have no idea.
It's because you faked the vomit, correct?
I didn't fake anything. I dry heave all the time. I dry heave from motion sickness before I got the motion sickness meds I used this morning for the trip over.
Okay, let's talk about that. So didn't you claim at the last hearing that you had some motion sickness on the way into court?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall whether or not that was supported by any of your transport team?
I remember they said that they had glanced at me in the mirror. I mean, I know I was dry heaving. I didn't actually throw up anything, but that's because I didn't eat intentionally, because I knew I get motion
sick. So do you remember, I believe there was some in-court inquiry to your Department of corrections officers. Do you remember them saying something from these seats back here at the last hearing?
I remember them talking from there, yes.
Okay, and I believe the judge, and I don't have the transcript, but I believe the court may have even sworn them in briefly for a couple
One of them, yes.
One of them, yes. And it was as to your claims of motion sickness, or how you were feeling on the transport.
How I
correct?
was feeling on the transport, yes.
And there's no mention of you vomiting in that transport van, correct?
No, I dry heaved. I didn't have anything on my stomach to throw up, thankfully.
Ms. Ms. Vander Ark, you were here for that November hearing, correct?
Yes,
And you sat in the courtroom while the other witnesses testified, correct?
yes.
Is it your testimony today that they all were lying about what happened in the jail before the Friday start of the trial?
What do you mean?
Well, so let's talk about it. We had multiple individuals who testified about your desire to not come to court, correct?
I know at least one said that, and I do remember making comment, I don't want to, but most of it was I can't.
Okay, but you did say the words, "I don't want
I
to."
did, yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes,
And you ultimately memorialized that in an affidavit.
yes.
And you don't dispute that that is something you signed, correct?
No, I don't dispute it, I signed it.
Do you remember, actually, I'm going to strike that, let me rephrase. Ms. Kentucky testified about her observations of you
Yes,
that morning, correct?
yes, she did. Although hers were different than Fred's and mine, but some of them.
It's fair to say you have some selective memory about what you remember from that morning, correct?
It's not selective at all. I still have memory issues to this day.
So it's fair to say, though, you remember some of the things, enough to
Some
say
of it.
Ms. Kentucky's is different than yours.
Well, because I sat there and I was the one that wrote the affidavit. And I sat here when Mr. Johnson said that, and officer said that I was curled into a ball on the floor, and then she said I was up in a chair, that it wasn't as bad. But he described it, I mean, the most accurate total description was what he did, what he described and the officers described. Hers wasn't as accurate.
So you're saying that Mr. Johnson's description of you that morning is accurate?
From what he said, as far as curled up into a ball and not able to communicate, yes.
So I said yes or no. Mr. Johnson's testimony about that morning is accurate.
As far as I remember I'd have to go back.
Yes or
and-
no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, Mr. Andrews.
Are you saying all of Mr. Johnson's testimony was accurate?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Not even close.
all right. You were seen by a number of professionals, correct?
Yes, sir.
One of those professionals is Dr. Colin King, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the prosecution mentioned that on page 10 there is a conclusion part, and you testified as to that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The ultimate conclusion on page 11 of Dr. Collins' report, can you read that, the highlighted portion?
Yes, sir. After reviewing the text messages with Ms. Vander Ark and the police report, Ms. Vander Ark continues to insist that she did nothing wrong and was not convinced that her actions and instructions caused the death of her son. This clinician is of the opinion that Ms. Vander Ark truly believes that her actions were appropriate and not harmful.
Okay, and this is a report that Mr. Johnson gave you?
Yes.
And you talked about this with Mr. Johnson?
I don't remember how much we talked about that.
Okay. As far as you're aware that you've always expressed your innocence to Mr. Johnson?
Absolutely.
Did you ever concede or ask him to concede to anything?
Absolutely not. I never would have.
Now, after day 3, after your testimony, were you seen by any medical personnel?
No.
On day 4, were you seen by any medical personnel?
No, sir.
I have nothing further.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.